Well, good morning from Wild Heather Cottage. I'm not sure if this is the lull before the storm returns or whether the worst of the storm is over. I hear up the island further they got 180-kilometre winds, so blew trucks over and trees down. So I guess Southland got off reasonably lightly. You can see my pet lamb having breakfast in the sunshine. Everything's saturated, absolutely saturated the ground is, so I'll get my gumboots on shortly and have a little wander around and see how the garden is. Looks like most of the pea straws managed to stay in place, which is good. I don't know if you can see sort of in the horizon there, but certainly to the west. I'll go out and have a look out the front in a moment, but I do believe more bad weather is due to come, so I've got a load of washing to do, which I've been saving up for a few days waiting for an improvement in the weather. And I may have to hang that, I think, in the on the pulley, I think, over the fire to get that dry, because I don't think it's going to get dry. It's very still, so I do feel, with Mother Nature. It's just the birds singing to us. When it gets very still like this, often it is the lull before the storm. Oh, there's some birds in the little tree there, in the pear tree. The pear tree's just starting to get blossoms. Little buds, really, not blossoms yet, but buds, really. Things are sort of budding up because it's early spring, September's early spring. Now, spring doesn't really kick in until after Labour weekend down here, because after Labour weekend the weather settles a bit and we can get outside and plant. I have put a few early potatoes in, which I'll show you in this little garden here, but it's looking a little bit worse for wear. It blew all the pea straw got blown off, and then I see the birds were in there this morning having a peek around. Good morning, Boots. How are you? Oh, and there's the cat coming to say good morning as well. I was just going to go and say good morning to the lamb, and I'll go and say good morning to the lamb. We'll just say good morning to Tigger. Hello, Tigger. I saw you this morning running over from the plum tree. Hey, were you stalking birds, were you? Hey? We'll go over and say good morning to the lamb, shall we? Good morning. I see you were cosy in your little house last night. I just looked out and checked on you, and yes, you were all snug as a bug in your little house. And if you can see this little house there, where he's got little hay, and yes, it's all facing north, which is nice and sunny. He wants to get out on the other side of the fence and have a chew, which I might let you on later on, as long as you don't eat my young fruit trees. You had a prune of some of the leaves, young, sweet, tender spring leaves the other day, so here he is there. He's about, I think he was a July lamb, I think, or end of July, so, oops. So there he is. Oh, there's a little glimpse of the west. And the west is where our weather comes from. It seems to come up from the south and whip up the valley and do a turnaround and come from the west. Because on the other side of all these hills is Fiordland, which is a national park. So the rain dumps itself, the cold rain dumps itself on the west coast, and then the leftover bits come over the top and strike Western Southland here. So it looks reasonably calm, so that's promising. Oh well, the garden seems to have survived. Look at all these lovely pink, those are the pink fragrant flowers, fragrant leaves of the flowering blackcurrant. I love the smell of them. It smells like a fruit bowl. Down here, everything's looking quite... That big puddle there, that's just an indication. That's that puddle there, that hole in the ground, that water sitting in is about 2, maybe 3 inches deep. So it just gives you an indication how much rain fell last night. That's not looking too bad. That's just the deck from the hut there. Not a leaf mould stain in place. It's the rhubarb lifting its leaves to the sun to dry out after the heavy rain. I think the kale, even my kale there, looks like it's actually even growing with all that heavy rain. I just plant some beans along that fence line, so I haven't seen them yet. I see the silver beets doing all right, and that there on the other side of the fence is my young feijoas. They seem to have survived all right. The strawberry garden here. Gosh, even the borage, look at that. I thought the borage would, it's got little flower heads coming on, and I thought that it would get knocked around, but you know, it seems to have held its own. There's beautiful marigolds or calendulas coming out in flower. All the new leaves on the lavender. That's my little Mediterranean garden there. Under this one, of course, I've got yams last year, and the onions are doing all right. They're doing fine. They're doing okay. This is the cabbages, and that is a mustard something, that leafy plant over here. I can't quite remember, it was a mustard cabbage or something like that, but it's got a mustardy taste to the leaves, and you can use it in raw in salads, or you can actually steam it as a vegetable, and it's really, really nice if you like the taste of mustard. Not too hot, just nice. Over here by the fence line here, this fence is a tin fence facing north, so it just heats up. It holds the heat in the summer. So I had a very prickly wild rose, I think birds or something might have dropped it, growing on there, so I hacked it back to nothing, and I'm going to plant some grapevines along there, because it's a perfect place for a grapevine. It'll get all the lovely heat, and it's quite sheltered, and it'll grow over the fence and look very nice, but mainly it'll grow a lot of grapes. It's a really good spot. So I've been working away there. I can see these little reedy plants here are actually peonies. Young peonies all starting to come out of the ground, which is neat. So this is a little project I've been working on. But pulling out roses, particularly old thorny roses, those climbing varieties. Oh, Lordy, I tell you, the thorns been shredded. My face has been shredded, my hands, and oh my God, even with gloves on, I tell you, a rose fights back. A rose certainly does. And then out the front there's a bush rose. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they have hairy, the whole stems are hairy, and every little hair is a thorn. And there's one out there called a muslin rose. So I'm going to tame that shortly. I'm actually not going to pull it out completely because it is an old rose, but I'm certainly going to get it under control. It's a bush rose because they used to plant them as hedges. Very effective too, because you don't want to go near it, and even animals don't go near it. Anyway, I'll say goodbye, and I'll go back to my nice cup of coffee in the sun, and then I shall go put the washing on. Have a lovely day, and goodbye from Wild Heather Cottage.